Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to Uncivil Law. I hope, as always, you are just having the most fantastic evening, and I am here to tell you about some more tea that exists in the toddy case, without a crystal ball, all the tea forever. It never ends. It's between this and the FBI. Who will provide us with more tea? That seems to be the debate we're having here at this point. Yeah. So yeah. Then we're talking a little bit about Clemson over here in the introductory chat here. And Clemson was my undergrad, and talking about old times. And someone asked me if I go to TDs, and I was like, yes, I used to drink at Keith Street, conveniently located at Keith Street. Anyways, but that doesn't exist anymore. It's very sad. All right, so let's just get started with the tea, and we are going to just read these documents and see what they have to say. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. And thank you to the 200 people that are currently here to watch us discuss Tea Hour. It is the greatest. My tea is in the form of bourbon. It is, once again, Blacklands Texas Pecan Brown Sugar Bourbon. It is great. I just ordered a case of it. Yummy. So let us read some of this. We'll start with the defendant's request for a status conference. We'd like the judge to talk with us about status. Where are we on this thing? Little get together session, little talkie. Yeah. So let us see what it has to say. Defendants seek this court's assistance with what they believe to be an urgent matter. The plaintiff's counsel, Michael Saltz, is making public accusations to a large audience on social media. Defendant Paulson is engaged in the federal crime of hacking into his Twitter and Gmail accounts. Exciting. He has followed that with the separate tweets of what he calls to be evidence of her guilt, and is discussing that evidence with his Twitter followers all in public. It's something, I suppose. Okay. In the last 2 days, he has posted a number of tweets about this accusation. He is prosecuting his trumped-up criminal charges against Ms. Paulson in front of a larger public audience. Now, I will take a bit of notes here that Emily Baker said at this point. She took exception to the word prosecuting, and I found that to be funny. Personally, because the word prosecuting is often and most often used in a criminal context, obviously, but it is proper to talk about prosecuting a case outside of criminal context. In fact, what I do for a day job is called prosecution. We literally call it patent prosecution. That's just what we call it on the paper side of patent law, patent prosecution. So yeah, we prosecute patents. You can prosecute civil cases. You can prosecute criminal cases. And also, I believe this is correct, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the military, when they're asking their legal adjutant if they can attack a target, the correct phrasing in response is that they recommend that you prosecute the target. So we can use the word prosecute in many, many senses. Emily took exception to this. I found it to be a little bit less exceptional because she's used to it in the criminal context because that's her job, but we do use it in civil law too. So yeah, he's prosecuting this. As he's prosecuting this lawsuit, technically speaking. Now he's gone as far as to suggest the undersigned counsel is involved in this felonious scheme. Deeply felonious scheme. He sent emails to me this morning threatening that he will work with federal authorities and will be pressing charges and demanding an explanation of my involvement in the crime. I take note how we're like pulling 2 and 3 words at a time, which is not necessarily super promising. Like when you see someone doing that, it suggests that they're pulling the words out of context. Because if they have more words, they put them together. So it seems a little bit like we are just picking the words that we want to say whatever we want to say. This conduct is unacceptable. Defendant's request for court immediate assistance to put a halt to and place constraints on counsel's public behavior, and use frivolous threats of criminal charges against opposing counsel. Defendant requests the urgent scheduling of a status conference to be followed by whatever briefing and hearing the court deems appropriate. At this point, I think a status conference is just a good idea generally, because the court is drowning in this side motion. As ridiculous as it is to believe, because I was thinking about this recently, about how everything is kind of off the main line. We're dealing with all this stuff has been a subservient issue, right? So we had the complaint, right? And then this all has been just motion to dismiss, and it's just been derivative. We've been off the main path. We haven't even really gotten to the second thing in the sequence yet. That's what's really depressing about it, right? We've been dealing with documents upon documents upon documents on a side issue. It's like we moved to a different timeline, and we have yet to jump back to the original timeline so we can get the second document in the series, which is the answer, which we haven't seen yet. Yeah. So it's just like, and we haven't even gotten to the second thing. This has all been 1.5 part A, B, C, D, E, F. You get the drill. Man, it's just. Okay, yeah. So I think a hearing conference at this point would be a good idea, because I think the judge probably wants a status conference at this point, just to get everyone on the same page and be like, what is going on, kind of. Now, I think that the court will be less extreme in the reaction than Emily implies, because judges see a lot of crap, and they see and the civil side of law actually tends to be more uncivil than the criminal side. So this actually kind of goes against Emily's experience. So her experience is on the criminal side, and as she herself has said, she'd never see this on the criminal side. This is common. The civil law is actually much more hostile than criminal law. I don't know why that is, but just is. So this kind of crap, while not exactly common in civil law, is not unheard of. So, Emily is responding to this like the judge is going to think this is the biggest deal of all time. I'm less convinced that the judge is going to think about this as the biggest deal of all time. They're more likely to think it's Tuesday. But nevertheless, the judge is probably going to want to try to figure out what's going on and try to get everyone on the same page and try to expedite the issues a little bit. So a status conference sounds like a good idea. Also a minute order of stop filing things, so that I can get to the jurisdiction issue and rule on that one way or another. Yeah, so good times. Okay, where were we? We're getting to argument. All right, let's talk about some argument. From the outset of this lawsuit, plaintiff, through their attorney, Michael Saltz, has litigated this case largely on social media. Mr. Saltz has very frequently posted tweets about this case, which involves a prominent social media personality, which has allowed him to grow his Twitter following to more than 5,400 people. So he's saying that by working off the back of Toddy, he's gained notoriety. I think he had notoriety in his own right beforehand, but whatever. Do you agree with Emily that jurisdiction needs to be resolved before they rule on the new issue? They can deal with some of the side stuff. This is all side stuff, so they can deal with all this before dealing with jurisdiction. I mean, the court has jurisdiction enough to deal with this side stuff and side drama. How much the court wants to get into before getting the principal issue, because we're not in the main. We still haven't gone to the main part of the case. We had 1, the filing. We haven't got into 2, the answer, right? So all this stuff is just kind of ancillary. So at this point, the court has jurisdiction enough, if they want to deal with this ancillary stuff. So they could resolve the jurisdictional issue, deal with the ancillary stuff. They can do kind of anything they want at this point. If I'm the court at this point, I probably want to deal with the jurisdictional stuff and just deal with that. But I could deal with this too, depending on my mood at the time. So it just depends how this judge wants to handle things. It could go either way. The judge could just be like, I'm going to ignore all this and basically just rule on the jurisdiction issue and pretend it never happened. That's also a valid option at this point, depending on their mood. Man. Okay, the majority of the content on Twitter account is about the one case, and most of his tweets are aimed at harassing and taunting Miss Paulson, including frequent accusations of wrongdoing with respect to this case and other unconnected matters. He's even resorted to aiming taunting personal attacks at her recently, criticizing her publicly for deliberately spending too much time on her work, operating a YouTube channel, and not enough time with her family and her friends. Her work is the sole source of income. Did Salt say anything like that? I guess we'll read the tweets and see if he said anything like that. We'll look at the ones that are in the legal document. If they're not there, they don't exist as far as I'm concerned. So we'll see. Yeah. The same tweet taunts her for regularly make statements helpful to our case. Is that really a fair characterization of what's going on? A YouTube channel that Mr. Salt's promoted via his Twitter account and mentions in his tweets reliably covers the filings in this case. Yeah, the 45 lines, the paper is properly lined. They just didn't do the numbering to correspond to the lines, which is super unhelpful. So they're using the right line paper. They just didn't change the lines to correspond to the paper. So it makes it very hard to cite the right line. It's not great. A YouTube channel that Mr. Saltz promotes via his Twitter account and mentioned in his tweets reliably covers the filings in this case. Because of Mr. Saltz's tweets and with the assistance of that YouTube channel and others, and I noticed I didn't get a shout out in this legal pleading, so I feel a little unloved. Filings in this case immediately got broadcasted page by page to hundreds of thousands of viewers. You know, we're commenting on court proceedings. The nice thing about having them on screen is that we are even more covered by the fair reporter's privilege. See, so one of the privileges that you have is what's called the fair report privilege. So if you're reporting fairly on something, then you don't get liable for defamation. So like you can quote someone what they said without it being defamation yourself. That's a fair report privilege. Now that does depend on you quoting them accurately, right? So journalists do get busted for this sometimes because sometimes they don't quote it accurately. But the nice thing about the document being on the page is I can't possibly be accused of that. Because even if I misspeak or I summarize something, the words are literally on the screen. So how much fairer can it get when the source document is literally there for everyone to see? Right? You know whether or not I'm faithfully reporting it because you can read it. And if I make a mistake, you can read it and know that I made a mistake. It's great. Let's continue. The result of these efforts has been the creation of a massive social media circus surrounding the lawsuit. Debatable. Until recently, that circus has been a distraction and a source of harassment directed at Miss Paulson. I will agree with Emily that no one should be harassing Miss Paulson or literally anyone else. You know, that's bad form. $5 from John Joy Daly. She is jealous of Emily's growth and will always attack women over men. Yeah, that does seem to be possible. And for someone who had as one of their emotes about women standing behind women, it does seem to be a little bit maybe inconsistent with that potentially. But now has become much more serious. Mr. Saltz has accused Miss Paulson of hiring hackers to break into his own Gmail and Twitter accounts. He makes that and other unfounded accusations in an email to me, but also is disseminating the criminal hacking accusations on his Twitter in a series of tweets. He has gone further and suggested an email that I, personally, was involved in this made-up criminal scheme and threatening that he's contacting federal authorities with whom he'll press charges. Didn't Saltz recently tweet a screenshot of his Gmail account where he got a recovery email? I don't think it's in this document because I think it happened today. But didn't Saltz, because I was on Twitter briefly, although I don't typically use Twitter, but I was on Twitter briefly and I saw that wasn't this him who he had tweeted a picture of a recovery email that he got from Gmail saying someone's trying to access your thing and the email address was without a crystal ball? Now, whether or not that actually was without a crystal ball or whether it was someone just using her email address, who can say? But there does seem to be some suggestion of hacking involved in all this, right? So, anyways. Emily used to clerk for a federal judge. That's neat. I didn't know that. So maybe her experience is different. That's cool. That's a cool experience to have. I'm slightly envious. The truth is, Miss Paulson has been the victim of a barrage of attempts by people she does not know to fabricate evidence, to make it appear she's trying to hack into social media accounts of others. $4.99 from Polaris. Say thank you for staying up. Give us your breakdown. You're welcome. Thank you for the super chat. It's always appreciated. First, the perpetrators, it can be anyone, can go into a Gmail account they've created and add Miss Paulson's Gmail address, which is publicly available on our YouTube channel, as a recovery email for their own account. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, we don't know where these attacks are coming from. It's reasonable to think it's Paulson. It's also reasonable to think it's not. It's reasonable to think that someone could be setting her up. I mean, this has gotten to be a bit of a circus at this point. And so we can't really put aside the idea that someone who's a fan of one of them or the other, one of the stands, is doing things to make the other side look bad. So are things really what they are or not? At this point, you have to suspect, because of the attention this is getting, because of the number of people that's involved, there could be bad actors out there. And so it's possible, and maybe even likely, that things may not be what they seem to or perceive to be. So, he's fair to bring that up, but it's perfectly reasonable for Salts to think it is that. And it's perfectly reasonable to think that it might not be. So both positions are reasonable. So, yeah, I mean, he's right. You can just there's ways to fake this for sure. Gmail then sends a notification to the recovery address as a security measure. But that recovery address is now Miss Paulson's, and it looks like she's been tampering with the account. Right. A similar fraud is being perpetrated with respect to Twitter accounts. The posting of a fine law review about Mr. Salts in Miss Paulson's name, and a complaint about Mr. Salts' email to his own firm also in Miss Paulson's name. It could be real. It could not be real. It could be people trying to stand up for Katie. It could be people trying to stand up for Toddy. It could be people just being anarchists and want to see the world burn. Or it could actually be the people involved. All these are possible. Emily explained how it is impossible to use her email as a recovery email. There might be ways to fake it. I mean, I wouldn't put it past it, but maybe Emily knows something more I don't. Mr. Salts was apparently targeted by someone who used Miss Paulson's email address, available to any member of the public, and decided to publicly blame this apparent crime on Miss Paulson. The accusations will no doubt continue to propagate and be refreshed by new tweets from Mr. Salts, all for the purpose of keeping the social media trial of Miss Paulson going. I mean, we can't, our trial can't really do anything because we have no power to order anyone to do anything. So, Mr. Salts is using this lawsuit as a vehicle for publicly harassing his client's opponents. In that game, he and his clients win no matter how baseless the evidence turns out to be. That's possible. Now, whether or not Salts knows any of that is a whole other set of issues. There's no reason to think he knows that. He can rely on what he sees. It may not be real, but it's reasonable to rely on. So, it's possible. Defendant respectfully requests an urgent setting of status conference so court may consider exercising supervision over the manner in which the case is being litigated. Probably a decent idea at this point, just to get everyone in the same room and talking and calm everyone down. Probably a decent plan. Shortly after receiving Mr. Salt's accusatory emails and reviewing his tweets. $4.99 from Georgia Peach. How would the witness's name get exposed? Curious what your thoughts are, since I've never heard of her name in any documents. What witness are you referring to? But depending on context, it might be possible to determine who that is. I mean, it might be possible to figure it out, depending on how much information that's available. So I wouldn't necessarily put it past anyone to figure out who a witness is. So I mean, it depends how much information is out there to be able to reach a deduction. That deduction may or not be correct, incidentally, which is also one of the problems with these things, because you might rake someone under the bus who doesn't deserve to be, right? Like the other Lorianne, for example. Instead of responding to that, Mr. Salts continues to send me accusatory emails, demanding I refute this wild inference he's drawing from his evidence. That did not respond to my request to discuss a joint submission in the court. Defense submit the conference request is satisfied here. It's a good idea. get everyone in the same room, have a little talk with them, figure out what's going on, air out some of these grievances. It's a good plan. So I have no particular objection to this, and I don't particularly think Saltz does either, but I couldn't presume to speak for him, but seems like a prudent idea to me. Yeah. So let us read the next thing. Yeah, MS is marital neutral. That's right. MS is marital neutral. Yeah. MISS for a single woman. MRS for a married woman. MS is neutral. Nice stuff. I know you want to beat your channel to grow, but I like being able to read your chat. Well, thank you. And I try to do my best to interact with the chat. And at some point, I'm going to have to do the same things Emily's doing, like make it slow mode and all the rest of it. But as long as I'm able to keep up with it, I make it as open as possible. It's my way of giving back to you, the chat people, because I think it's important to give back to you. You guys are helping my channel to grow, and I don't ever want to seem ungrateful. You're helping me do what I love doing, which is talking about this stuff. I love talking about this. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love it even more than bourbon. I know it's shocking to me too, but it's true. I've loved this stuff since I was like 10. This is interesting stuff to me. I love this stuff. I got a copy of the Constitution. I was enthralled, and I never looked back since. It's good stuff. Yeah. So let's see what comes up next in the series. Thank you all for being here. Really, it's very meaningful to me. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's read what Catherine Paulson has to offer. Yeah, Melanie says, any idea why your messages got deleted often in Emily's stream? I don't know. They looked right to me, so I don't know what's going on. So, okay, here's what she says. Here's what Katie says. And of course, this is under oath, so we should take it with some weight, right? It's a statement made under oath, and if it's materially wrong, then that would be bad, because that would be perjury. So we should take it with some weight that it's true, unless we can determine it's not true. So we'll give Katie and we'll give everyone who swears something under oath the benefit of the doubt, right? They're making a statement under oath. They're putting their honor and reputation on the line. And so we'll give it respect that it's due. We give it the weight that it's due. I think that's fair. Myra M gives me $4.99. People tweet KG's behavior report to Salty. He responds back with clarifications, answer, and asks for proof it got there. Not go after her. Well, presumably there will be some receipts, and we'll look at them and see what they do or do not say, and whether or not, Mr. Brown is kind of going off the deep end, because he's making some fairly strong statements here. So we'll be able to assess whether or not I think he's going off the deep end a little bit. Make sure I got all the super chats because someone said they super chat to me and I didn't want to miss any chats. So I'll just read them all again. Sarah Jane McHugh gave me €5, said, I keep missing lives. Sleeping pills are kicking in, so this one is under threat too. Almost 5 a.m. Advanced props for the Uncivil take on the tea. Thank you, Sarah Jane. That's very kind of you. Thank you for watching from Europe. It's very late there. What are you doing up? John Daly, she's jealous of Emily's growth and always tackle women over men. $4.99 from Polaris 5. Thanks for staying up to give us the breakdown. $4.99 from Georgia Peach. How are the witness games exposed? Curious what your thoughts are, since I never heard a document. Yeah, people can make deductions based on information that's available, so, and not necessarily correct ones, but yeah. And $4.99 from Myra M. People tweet KJ's behavior report to Salty. He responds back with clarifications, questions, answers, and asks for proof, not to go after her. Fair enough. So thank you for all the super chats. It is always appreciated. Thank you. So we categorically deny the accusations currently being made against me by Michael Saltz via Twitter and via emails from him to my attorney. that I've directly or indirectly hacked or attempted to hack or asked others to hack or attempt to hack into his email, Twitter, or any other account. That covers a lot of ground. That's pretty all-encompassing statement. Directly or indirectly hacked or attempt to hack or asked others to hack or attempt to hack. That covers a lot of ground. Of email, Twitter, or any other account, or the account of witnesses he's accusing me of hacking. Fair? I have no involvement in any of the alleged hacking Mr. Salsa is accusing me of, other than to receive notifications after the fact that appear to show my email address was somehow involved with some attempt to do something to someone else's account. Fair. $3.99 from Kimberly, mother of Rots, says your message was deleted because you're promoted live. Well, maybe. I mean, I consider myself to be on reasonably good terms with Emily since we've talked and we're friends. So I didn't think I was, being too inappropriate by saying I was planning on going live in 20 minutes. But if that's why the mods deleted me, then okay. But I thought I was within the bounds of, politely just mentioning to people that I was planning on going live. But if the mods thought that was too much, then okay, noted. I don't think Emily would mind, but because I wouldn't mind if she did to me, but maybe she thinks about it differently. That's fair. Since yesterday, I've received a number of such email notifications that my email account has been associated with Gmail accounts of people I do not know. I've also received notifications from Twitter that appear to reflect some attempt to use my email address to gain access to or make changes to someone's Twitter account. I did not have any involvement in any of these activities other than receiving notifications after the fact. That's pretty declarative. I've also received emails confirming activities that apparently were done using my email address, such as posting reviews or making a compliment to Mr. Salt's law firm, but were in fact by someone other than me using my email address. That's perfectly fair. Here again, I have nothing to do with these activities. Indeed, I just received a confirmation that I successfully subscribed to Hacker Newsletter via hackernewsletter.com. I did not request a subscription. I attacked as Exhibit A true and correct copy of some of the email notifications I've received. So, yeah, it looks like people are not exactly framing her, but people are just trolling her, basically, would be a better way of putting it, but it doesn't really do what it purports to be. Victoria1111 gives me $25. It's a very generous super chat, Victoria. Thank you very much. I think it would be great if people didn't come to this channel to let Uncivil know what Emily says or thinks. It's weird. I don't mind. And I don't mind people talking about Emily's stuff in this too. If she minds about it, because one of her mods, I don't mind, because it's relevant to the topic. It's on topic, and people are talking about, so they are following my rules. My rules are to be on topic and be polite. So by talking about Emily's stuff about this, they're being on topic. They're within my rules. So it doesn't bother me. And if they want to talk about what Emily's saying or they want to make comparisons, as long as they're polite, I don't. It's fine by me. And they let Emily, and they want to let me know what Emily thinks. I'm like, that's cool. Here's what I think. Here's where I agree or disagree. It's perfectly fine, but, thank you for this $25 super chat. It was very, very generous. Yeah. In case of notifications from Gmail, when I attempt to undo the connection between my account and the other person's account in response to notifications, I receive a message that the other person's account is no longer active. So basically, they set it up, they send the thing, then immediately delete it, right? So it's just basically a turn and burn kind of thing. I believe that some of the many thousands, tens of thousands or more of online followers of this lawsuit, and more specifically Mr. False Friesen tweets, are behind this effort to manufacture evidence. That's a perfectly reasonable assumption. Or it's just people who want to watch the world burn or whatever, or it's just young kids who are bored. How would I handle this if KJ was a client? Well, for starters, I would have made a motion to dismiss for the defamation. That would have been good. And I would resist very heavily in accusing another lawyer of doing something. It's a little unseemly, and it's unnecessary, and it hurts everyone involved. So I would not. I would be disinclined to do this kind of thing personally. Okay. And then we have the day-to-day. So she just basically denies that she has any involvement with this. She denies that she's tried to hack the account, direct anyone to hack the account for Twitter or any of the things. She's getting these notifications. She doesn't know where they're coming from. And she speculates reasonably. It's speculation, but it's also reasonable speculation that's coming from some of Toddy's followers. You know, some of their people probably went too far. Some of your fans probably go too far. I mean, it's, part of the problem. When you have a large fan base, some of them will do extreme things. So that's really annoying. And then we have the signature page, and then we have some exhibits with some tweets or whatever, or so we got. So thank you for, so Without a Crystal Ball, thank you for leaving a review on Fine Law from Michael J. Saltz. Didn't do that. Exhibit B, security alert, password was changed for this account, and sending it to Without a Crystal Ball. Your account was listed as the recovery email for Nate. Don't recognize this account, click here. Yeah, don't recognize this account, click here does suggest it's possible for someone to set up a recovery account that is not yours. So, yeah. Exhibit C, security alert about the account. Another one from this same account, Nat to 2012 Angel. Exhibit D, again, for recovery email. And on page 14, someone added Without a Crystal Ball as their recovery email. And that, again, with 2012. So, and then it says, if you don't recognize this account, it's likely your email address was added in error. You may remove your address from that account. So it looks like it's possible for someone to set up a recovery email to an email that they do not control. So, there you go. Is the court going to have to get IP addresses from Google now? Maybe. It depends how the court wants to handle it. If I were the court at this point, I just assume that I would assume that anything anyone says in a sworn affidavit, it has some likelihood of credibility. Not to say that people don't lie, but if they're willing to put their money, I'm willing to give them a benefit of the doubt. These, whatever anyone else has done in a different case, these people haven't done anything in my case. So, if she's willing to say that I don't have any knowledge of this and it wasn't me, be like, okay. I mean, I don't need to care about this issue to deal with the jurisdiction issue, which, in case anyone forgot, was the issue we were supposed to be dealing with the whole time. So it's so much ancillary. It's like, I don't care. $10 from New York Ditterbug, just because I appreciate your opinion. Well, I appreciate you being here, New York Ditterbug. Thank you very much. So, good times. She's repeatedly stated she has two-factor authentication. I'm not sure that would prevent anyone from adding her email address as a recovery email to a different account. How much do I think both sides have spent so far? Too much, man. Too much. And yeah. And two-factor authentication, depending on what the second factor is, can leave its own things to be desired. So let's read this third document from Brown in declaration of the request for a status conference. And see, and then Kim says, what the heck about jurisdiction, right? That was the issue we're supposed to be solving this whole time. Just lest I need to remind you, because it's been a while since we actually discussed what the legal standard is here. But just in case anyone has forgotten what the legal standard is here, in a motion to dismiss, you assume everything that the side that isn't asking for it is true. So in this case, the defendant is asking to dismiss, which means, for the purpose of a motion to dismiss, you assume everything the plaintiff says is true, unless it is palpably ridiculous, unless it's insane. So unless it is insane, you as the court assume everything the plaintiff says is true, which is why it's a little ridiculous for the defendant to be offering contrary facts. Because at this point, who cares? No one cares. No one cares about what the defendant thinks the facts are. It doesn't matter. All we care about is what the plaintiff thinks the facts are. And we might care if there's some evidence to support that proposition, so we might care about that. But we assume everything the plaintiff says is true. So, like, so much of this is completely ancillary. Because at this stage of the proceedings, the court is not going to try to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. Because the court doesn't care at this stage. You just assume everything Toddy says is true. That's the entire point of it. The entire point of the motion to dismiss is assuming everything Toddy says is true. Does she have a case? That's the motion to dismiss. That's it. Assuming everything Toddy says is true, does Toddy have a case? That's the standard. Yeah. And it's like, and I think, as I pointed out, there are ways to rebut that, because you can say, like, yeah, assuming everything she's true, if I was KJ's lawyer, it's like, assuming everything she says is true, we don't think we have any liability. Here's why we don't have anything liability. Public figure, underlying truth, blah, blah, blah. So if everything she says is true, we still win. That's the motion to dismiss. So some of the stuff the defendant is doing was like, well, here's our facts. What the hell are you talking about? What do you mean, here's our facts? What are you talking about? That's not how this works. You shouldn't be offering affidavits from your client in a motion to dismiss. Because all your client can say is, that's not true. But it is for the purposes of the motion to dismiss. That's the entire point. Of course it's true. There's no alternative. And this standard works both ways, incidentally. So in the event that Katie, in her answer, makes counterclaims, and I don't know what those would be for. Defamation would be the most obvious thing. But in the event that Katie makes counterclaims, right? And then Toddy moves to dismiss, right? So now she's on the wrong side. In that motion to dismiss, we'd consider everything Katie says to be true. That's how that would work, right? So if she makes counter accusations and then Toddy says, that's not true, we're like, what are you talking about, Toddy? Of course it's true. Of course everything Katie says is true. There's no alternative. And you go from there. Anyways, pressing on. So what does Mr. Brown have to teach us? I'm a lawyer. I made this declaration. Here's a copy of his homepage, which shows he has more than 5,400 followers. Super. I don't know if that's a lot or not, but whatever. Below is a screenshot of tweet Mr. Saltz posted on New Year's Day of 2021, in which he publicly opines that Miss Paulson should spend more time with her family instead of creating content for her YouTube channel. And in response to Haya, so she says she's deliberately doing what she's doing, Michael Saltz. Weird strategy, don't you think? Mr. Saltz says, deliberately doing what? It was an ambiguous statement. Good point. Was she referring to deliberately being live nonstop all day, every day, away from family and friends and life? Was she referring to regularly making statements helpful to our case? What was the context of the statement? That's not quite that she should spend more time. It's just, was she doing this? That's not a suggestion that she should be doing something else. It's just a, was she doing this? Right? That's the way I would read it. Right? So it's like, was she referring to being live instead of being away from friends and family and life? That's not a suggestion, at least implicitly, that you should be doing more with friends and family and life. It's just a, was he saying that was the case? He's not suggesting it's improper, right? So I don't see it there personally. Below is a screenshot from a video on a YouTube channel that Mr. Saltz has promoted on his Twitter account. The channel regularly focuses videos on this lawsuit. This video, covering plaintiff's filing to response, can be seen whatever, and the video has 143,915 views. Please do your part to ensure that this video gets 143,915 views. It would be appreciated. Thank you. And thank you to the 775 of you who are watching. Below is a screenshot of just a few tweets Mr. Saltz has posted publicly accused Ms. Paulson of the crime of hacking. The first one was posted on January 16th. The other are just a few dozen that followed. KJ is Mr. Saltz's casual way of referring to Ms. Paulson. Fair enough. So what do we have here? This is 2 days ago. There appears to have been several hacking attempts today on my Google and Twitter accounts, and possibly others. This is not the first time, and whoever it was used a familiar email in their efforts. That's not publicly accusing Paulson. That's just a pure statement of fact. That is factually correct. Whoever it was using a familiar address in their efforts. That is just unobjectionably factually correct. He's not accusing Katie of doing anything. He's just saying there appears to have been hacking attempts, and whoever it was used this email address. That's just factually true. And he's not saying Paulson was behind it. So I think Brown is reading too much into it. You know? So for all the people who think that, all the people who are just like, oh, you constantly defend Katie all the time, right? Now I'm defending Saltz. So I'm just doing the same thing I did before, right? I'm trying to read it charitably, consistently with what I do. It's like I'm trying to read it charitably. Some people are like, oh, you're a Katie fan. I'm like, not really. You love everything she says, not particularly. And now I'm reading this, I'm like, yeah, I'm not seeing a problem. I think Brown is wrong. Who am I a shill for now? Who am I a shill for now, you know? Then he says, it's a criminal offense. I can't imagine, given my background, that anyone would think I would not pursue this. Which, it might very well be a criminal offense. And he might very well want to pursue this. Yeah. So, I don't see any problem with this. Michael Saltz says, what post? I will need that for a report to the authorities in the court. So he's asking what post, and he'd like to report that. That's fine. $9.99 from TK Shade. I enjoy your opinion. Thank you. And I try to be consistent. You know, I try to read everything consistently. I try to be as neutral and fair as possible. And I read Katie's statements, you know, with the benefit of the doubt. I read Toddy's statements with the benefit of the doubt. I read their statements from the lawyer. And I disagree with Mr. Brown. And sometimes I disagree with Saltz. Amazing, right? It's almost like I'm being fair. Okay. Anyways, then Katie says, why are you hacking my Gmail and trying to get into my YouTube account? These people are trying to hack my YouTube, Team YouTube. Okay, fair. I mean, that does seem to be correct. Katie does seem to be a victim of this to some degree. Katja says the tweet from Michael Saltz was in a super long thread taken out of context. Even out of context, I didn't have any problem with it, though. I read it out of context, and I'm like, I'm fine with it. It's fine by me. So even out of context, I'm like, works for me. So if they're trying to quote it out of context, I'm still like, I don't care. Okay, Michael Saltz says, God is great. Thank you for reaching out. Is it true your account was created at the same time as the other harassing SOC accounts surrounded by this hacking issue, and that your account exists to support KJ and attack your detractors? Your 4-day history is very interesting. So incidentally, a sock account is sock puppet. Comes from the term sock puppet. And it's when you literally put a sock. The term comes, you literally put a sock over your hand and then you speak with the sock as a puppet. So you put a sock over your hand and be like, so that's a sock puppet literally. And the idea is that, you are the sock puppet because you are when it's attached to your hand. So that's what sock comes from. Now you know the origin of that, since I saw someone ask that in Emily's chat. $4.99 from Da Best Mama Bear. Just a little something to help you with your bourbon consumption. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The Best Mama Bear. You are the best Mama Bear because you help supply me. with bourbon. Attached is Exhibit A and C are true copies of the email Mr. Salt sent me demanding that I explain my involvement. Why has the defense requested this case to be sealed since these statements reading are so detrimental? Couldn't speak to their motivations. KJ has gone from none of this matters to this has been the worst 3 months of my life. Do you think she's going to counter for emotional distress? She can't from the lawsuit itself. She can't use the lawsuits as a basis for emotional distress unless the lawsuit was frivolous. And even though I think Katie has good defenses, it's not frivolous, right? So even though I think Katie has a potentially winnable position, I wouldn't say that Todd's complaint is frivolous. So I don't think she can get to emotional distress. So from that, no. But maybe she's going to try for it. I mean, her best counter is for defamation that I can see. And I don't know whether she'll go for that or not. So we have this initial letter, number 1, which we'll read in part because it contains a little sensitive information. But Michael, there's a lot going on. We need time to discuss. We have direct messages from your client threatening our witness with lawsuits if she shares her information with us. And there appears to be direct communication on Twitter with one of the harassers that made death threats and others against our witness. Don't make death threats. Q Squared gives me $25. A very generous donation, Q Squared. Thank you. Can we have a Booker's night on stream for going through the Capitol rioters on a weekend, please? Also, fingers crossed, no mass pardon. We might have to do something, man, because my original plan was 1 a day. My original plan for the FBI T stream was 1 a day, and I'm still stuck on the 14th. I'm still covering indictments from arrest warrants from the 14th. I'm already 4 days behind. And I know that really represents like a month and a half. So I don't know what we're going to do, but I feel like everyone deserves their own story. So I don't know what we'll do, but thank you for the super chat. The FBI is going to keep me drowned in tea forever. Anyways, we're also in the process of providing all this information to federal authorities, and we'll be pressing charges once we determine all who are involved in hacking attempts and witness tampering. Witness tampering is very illegal. Hacking is very illegal. He's well within his rights to provide the information to authorities, and well within his, I mean, strictly speaking, he doesn't press charges, and he knows that. But he will press it as much as he's possible. So, I mean, yeah, he wants to provide this information to federal authorities, and hacking is illegal. It's a violation of the CFA. Witness tampering is illegal. It's witness tampering. The witnesses who have harassed sufferers from autism, among other ailments, and lack technological ability to participate in any hacking attempt on your client. So, despite your client's false public claims to the contrary. So that's presumably referring to Katie herself? Has Toddy made an accusation? No, Kate, no, wait. Your client, this is from Salts. So that's talking about Katie. Okay, so the witness, whoever that is, who suffers from autism among other elements and lacks technological ability to participate in any hacking accusations. Did Brown say the witness was doing it? I don't know. If he did, we haven't seen that email. Further, we uncovered evidence showing the witness's email account was archived and accessed by her client's known and working email address. To the extent that she received said information, demands hereby made that she immediately document its receipt and destroy the contents of the archive without reviewing it. Well, that's not possible. She can't document it without reviewing it, but whatever. $9.99 from Theresa, Minnesota. Between the FBI and KJ, I don't know if there's enough bourbon to survive the insanity. I did just order a case of it. I did order a case of the brown sugar bourbon, so we'll see. Exhibit B, Michael, Mr. Brown. Salts is a little informal here, but that's okay. You should be made aware that the hacker just stated on Twitter that she was hired by your client who did that. You should check the account before it's deleted. That seems very advisory. It's not accusation. This person did this thing, you should check it. Suffice to say, very serious claims have now been made implicating your client in these and other matters. We ask you to take all steps to preserve any and all evidence for a full forensic investigation. That could be read a little bit more as more of an accusation. We also demand that you document and take control over the 24 Twitter accounts and 3 email accounts that apparently belong to your clients to safeguard them from deletion due to our SOC accounts from being exposed. No, I wouldn't do this. And I don't think I can. Please confirm that you've done so the evidence can be preserved with respect to court's order. We await your response. Not only can't I do this, I don't think I can. Yeah, not only would I not do this, I don't think I can. Those accounts are property. They're property of my client. If I was Katie's lawyer in this hypothetical. So if it were, if it's my client's accounts, they're my client's accounts. They belong to my client. So I can certainly tell my client, as I must and should, that there is an order out there that prevents her from deleting accounts. So I can tell her that she can't delete any accounts, and if she does, they'll be held in contempt, and she should absolutely not delete them. But the idea that I would take possession of them, even if I could, no. I would not do this. First of all, I don't want that. I don't want it, and it's not my responsibility. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility here is to give the best advice to my client. And my responsibility is to follow any order from the court for any evidence that I do have. And I'll certainly take the best effort I can to document anything. But if you're asking me to take control of my client's account, no. No. Not without an order from the court. No. I'll tell her not to do it. I'll certainly advise her. I'll advise her of the consequences. I'll strongly tell her that she shouldn't in every possible terms. But if she does, that's not my fault. And I'm not going to, and I don't think I can. It's not my property to do with as I please. Go back a few super chats on Witness. Did I miss a super chat? I thought I got them all. Oh. Georgia Peach gave me $4.99. I did miss one. The Nat account is supposed to be the witness that was doxxed. Threaded and KJ tweeted she had mental problems, among others, about this layer. Who is Nat? What is a Nat? Is that, yeah. $5 from Sierra Cal. I appreciate your fair analysis and wit. Thank you. I'm a teacher and use these clips of your videos this term. Argumentative writing. My students love you too. That's very kind of you, Sierra. Thank you. It's nice to know that I'm a teaching tool. Hopefully for good. Hopefully for good. Yeah. But I appreciate that. That's awesome. We also demand that you document. Okay, please confirm you've done so the evidence can be perceived. Yeah, my response would be no. With all due respect to Salts, my answer would be no. No, I'm not going to do that. No. No disrespect. I missed your first $5 Q squared. I'm so sorry, Q squared. No. I shouldn't do that to Q squared. He's so wonderful. A support. Q squared gave me $5 at 11:15 that I missed. I am a bad YouTube host. I'm sorry. The new membership badges in YouTube look nice, but the colors aren't great for dark theme. 3, 6, and 12 months really get the shaft. Fair. I will look into it. Thank you for letting me know, Q squared. That's very nice of you. Yeah, Natalie. I don't know who. I presume Nat is Natalie, but I don't know who Natalie is. 20 Canadian dollars from Karen Nash Collins. Thank you for arguing both sides. I love hearing what both sides could argue. It's so interesting. I appreciate your honest opinion. Yeah, just try to keep it fair. Try to keep it neutral. Try to analyze it as best as I can with respect to both sides. Try to do my best. Exhibit C. Mr. Brown, this is begin from Salt. The other hackers disclosing information of your client's plan to delete evidence and bring false charges against me. They claim that your clients gave them a special IP address and passwords to do work on their behalf. What does that even mean, a special IP address? Okay. Part of that was to sign myself up with various porn sites and make police reports against me claiming I'm a pedophile. Hackers claimed to be 13 and 15 and were hired by your clients through Facebook. They claim this was done to discredit me so I could not prosecute the case. And again, This is a proper use of the word prosecution, with all due respect to Emily. Yeah, I know she has a special place in her heart as a criminal prosecutor, but yeah. So yeah, do these people exist? Are they telling the truth? Are they hackers? Are they just even claiming to be? So do these people exist? Are they actually hackers, or just people claiming to be? Are they just posing? Were they hired by Katie, or hired by some other random person, or hired themselves, or are they phantoms? Like, all these are possibilities, right? Yeah. So I mean, nothing. I mean, we don't know what's real. They also claim that your client was fabricating evidence to make a claim that we were harassing her. They could be making that up too. I hope Salts is attuned to the possibility that some of this might not be real. Now he probably wants to pursue every lead, but hopefully he isn't chasing ghosts. They also claim they were told to try to hack in your client's account to make them look like she was being hacked too, so she could pretend to be a victim. Maybe they were hired by Toddy's fans as some sort of triple espionage, whatever, people trying to be too clever. Or maybe they don't exist. There's evidence of open communication and planning between your clients and the hacker accounts. All involved foreshadow they're going to hit us with a big surprise. We demand to know your involvement or knowledge, which apparently is we have no knowledge or involvement. And it's a perfectly reasonable thing for Salts to ask, but, I think it could have been done with a little less accusation and perhaps picking up the phone rather than a formal letter, but, okay. Please be advised we're immediately sending a subpoena to Twitter to obtain the full identity of these now admitted hackers that your client purposely hindered. I assume under the circumstances you'd not be objecting. If I were Katie's lawyer, I'd have no objection to this. If my client told me that she didn't do it and didn't hire them, and I'd be like, they're going to subpoena it. And she says no. I'm like, okay. So I'd have no objection to this. $5 from Felicia Berry. Just to thank you for reading my question. FBI TOR is my new favorite thing. There's going to be FBI TOR for so long, man. We're going to need more than 3 digits by the time we're done, I'm sure. So yeah, I have no objection to this. Be advised the hackers claim to document all the interactions with the client, which could be fake or whatever. Very truly yours, Salts. Okay. Document D. We need to get the court involved ASAP. Katie denies the allegations. I certainly know nothing about hacking or other stuff, which is a perfectly valid response, right? Kate, and she did deny it, and she did it in an affidavit. And so he's saying, I don't know anything about it either. And so I'm inclined to believe him. He is an officer of the court. And so I'm inclined to give a fellow lawyer the benefit of the doubt. I do know that Katie is under a barrage of people attempting to link to her Google account to people she does not know. It'd be the least surprising thing in the world. It turns out one of your 1,000 followers are setting her up. Yeah. Or one of her own followers that feels betrayed, or some random person who's bored, or some triple, quadruple deception, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I'm on board with that. Jennifer says, I think when they put out death threats on him, witnesses, EDB, and other cares, all claims come off. Oh, I have no problem with him going after the hackers. But I have no problem with going after the other hackers. Don't mistake me. But I think, I wouldn't go after the other attorney. I wouldn't go after the other attorney unless I have to. It's important for me to have a good relationship with the other attorney. It's important for my client, and incidentally, it's important for their client too. As far as I'm concerned, it's mutually beneficial to both of us and both of our clients for me to have a good relationship with the other attorney. We're going to need to pick up the phone. We're going to need to be able to talk to each other. We're going to need to be able to we're going to need to do each other a favor. I'm going to need to move a date. You're going to need to call somebody. We're going to need to be able to do favors. If we can't do each other favors, we have to do everything formally, and it drags everything down. It takes longer. It drags everything out forever, and it costs way more. So it's to my benefit and to your benefit and to my client's benefit and to your client's benefit, as far as I'm concerned, that we have a decent relationship. Professional at minimum, more if possible. I have no objection to being friendly with the other attorney because we are not the client. So I have no objection to Salts or Brown or anyone else going after the people who are making death threats and Twitter people and reporting them to the FBI and reporting them to the judge and reporting them to everyone else. That's perfectly fine. What I take a bit of exception to personally is throwing the other lawyer under the bus, unless you really have to. Because if this case continues, we might have to work together for a long time. And if we can't play nice, it's going to be really, really painful. And we're all going to hate it, and it's going to be really miserable. So let's not do that. That's all I'm saying. Which attorneys threatened to bring bar complaints against the other? That's what I'm saying, man. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't do that. That's some shady shit as far as I'm concerned. At least according to Lori Ann, Brown was trying to bring bar complaints. That's some shady shit, man. I'm skeptical about your allegations, but they should be aired in front of the judge, which is perfectly fair. Also, concerns I want to address. I don't think we get our attention on the holiday. Perhaps we should send her an email. And then he files this, and yeah, that's the end of that. So, yeah, I think that this request for status conference makes perfect sense. I don't see anything particularly objectionable, to my mind, in anything Salt said. Well, let me rephrase that slightly. There were some things that I did take minor exception to that seemed a little unduly aggressive for my taste to the other lawyer. But I didn't see anything wrong with his tweets. I didn't see anything wrong with the accusations. I thought they were all fine. They're all within the bounds. I had no particular problem with it. And I thought that Brown has been largely within the bounds too. I wouldn't throw another lawyer under the bus of reporting them to the bar, because that's a real dick move. Yeah, Amy has it exactly right. Amy has it right. Hey, remember that time I threw you under the bus? Yeah, I need your help. Right? So that's exactly why you don't want to do this. If you don't have to. You're going to need a favor. I'm going to need a favor. I know that for sure. If we're dealing with this lawsuit on an ongoing basis, we're going to both need favors. A lot of them, probably. And it's to our benefit that we can, at least be cordial with each other. So, I don't know. If someone threatened to go to the bar after me, that would really piss me off. And that would make it impossible for me to do a relationship with them. That is a bridge too far. If I found out the other lawyer was planning or trying to make bar complaints against me, I'd get really pissed really fast. So yeah, that's a bridge too far for me. So is it too late to salvage this relationship? I don't know. It depends on Brown and Salt's relative tolerance, but yeah, that pissed me off in a hurry. Question. Could you write up the minor accusation on both sides of stress because the exchange was going and this happened? Yeah. I mean, you have to give people deference. But the let me, and I didn't even really object as much as Emily did to what Brown did with respect to the request in the affidavit, because yeah, Emily and I had a really different read on what Brown was asking of Lori Ann. Now, there's a conflict of interest issue, to be sure, and he was definitely riding the line on the conflicts of interest. Now, I did think he was ultimately within the bounds, and I don't object to Emily disagreeing with me. But she read something in particular very differently than I did, which was interesting in how we view things. So what Lori Ann said, if I'm getting this correct, what Lori Ann said is Salt was passively aggressing her, right? Being passively aggressive. And Emily said, well, that's different than being threatening. And it is, but you could also, read it into that if you wanted to. Or you could think that's what it's really trying to say. So I didn't really particularly object to Brown saying, we want to report this harassment because that sounds like what you're saying. And it would be nice if you could sign an affidavit. And it wasn't sign this affidavit, right? It seemed to be more in the term of a suggestion, right? It was a suggestion. It would be great if you could sign this affidavit. And it would be great from his point of view. That would really help all of his things. So it was a suggestion. And maybe it was inappropriate, but I don't know. I kind of thought it was within the bounds, although pushing the bounds. And Emily thought it was a huge no-no and the worst thing ever. So we had a very different reaction on the ethics on that one. But I've seen a lot worse, so maybe my tolerance is higher. You know? Grace cases, I need a favor on civil law. My cats have hogged the blanket. Please file an injunction. You gotta. I don't know if you can give an injunction to cats, man. I don't know they respect the courts or anyone else. Yeah. Brown was not Salt's. No, no. Salt's is playing a different. Salt's is playing a different game, and Brown was Brown should have been a little bit clearer on the conflicts, and he was giving legal advice. He was pushing the bounds, but just a personal opinion. I've seen lawyers do a lot worse. So yeah. How Brown approached L.A. Lorianne made me feel uncomfortable. Fair, that's fair. Kayun Asikuzi said, I thought that apparently Brown was my lawyer sounded like even Lorianne didn't know she wanted a lawyer. So it sounded like Brown was being predatory. Well, he was certainly taking advantage of an opportunity, right? He was taking advantage of an opportunity. Because what the ideal situation for Brown, right, is for Lorianne to be on his side of the equation. And he would ideally, if he's acting within ethics, he'd ideally like it to be accurate and true and hurtful to the other side at the same time. And if he's writing the affidavit, he can try to accomplish that objective because different attorneys will write the same affidavit differently, right? I can take what you say and I can present it in the most favorable light to my side and the most unfavorable light to the other side possible, right? So Brown was presented with this opportunity. It's like Lorianne is this major witness. And if I'm Brown, I want to write Lorianne's declaration too. Because if I'm a lawyer, I need it to be truthful, right? Because I have to be truthful to the court. So it has to be truthful. It has to be accurate. But I can do that and be unfavorable to the other side at the same time. That would be ideal. And for that matter, Saltz is probably almost certainly doing the exact same thing, right? He is almost certainly, if he is the lawyer that he is, and I have no reason to believe he's not, he's being truthful and accurate and unhurtful to the other side, right? So that affidavit would not look the same written by Saltz and written by Brown, right? That isn't to say that it's not true, signed by Saltz. I'm not saying it's not true. And it isn't to say that it wouldn't be true if Brown wrote it. But they'd be different, perhaps a lot different, right? Because that's what lawyers get paid for. How to present the truth in a way that's favorable to me and unfavorable to you. That's what lawyers do with their time, among other things. So Brown's incentives were to have Lorianne's declaration written by him. Now, he has a conflict, or maybe he doesn't, right? Maybe he doesn't. Because she wants some things, and maybe I can accomplish what she wants and accomplish what I want at the same time. She's like, I'd really like to file this thing. It's like, well, it'd be great for me if you could delay, because that would be helpful. I'll file it for you later, but not now, because that'd be great. So I saw what he was doing as an attempt to juggle all those. And what he should have probably done, and I don't know if he did this at any point or not, and hopefully he did, but what he really should have done is given the conflicts warning at a minimum. And I don't know if he did that or not. But he seemed to be within the bounds. Now, maybe he pushed her too far, and she was uncomfortable with it. And, more props to her. Because she didn't want to sign something. He pushed the bounds too far, and she didn't want to sign something, so she went to Saltz. And then Saltz wrote her affidavit for her, because of course he did. And now it's what it is, and it's unfavorable to Brown's side. So, maybe Brown pushed it too far, but I thought it was probably within the bounds. And Emily sharply disagreed with that assessment. She thought that it was an obvious conflict. She needed to get written waivers, and she thought that he was trying to put words in her mouth and not asking what happened And I thought, that was a little bit more tenuous. Check out name edited comment. Okay, let me check out name's edited comment. If I can find it. How high do I have to scroll up to find it? Okay. Name edited said, I just find it weird. The defendant isn't as concerned with someone making death threats on their behalf as they are of the snarky lawyer tweet. Well, I can't say what they are or are not concerned with, but, making the other side look bad is always a promising thing to do, right? So, especially if you can make the other client look bad. So, do you think Brown decided to file this first to get ahead of Salt's, especially since the last meal judge said might not respond to do the holiday? I don't know. I'm not sure it really matters who asked for it. I think the judge should grant it and just try to see where everyone is. Try to calm everyone down a little bit. Because we might be here for a long time. So let's, calm down, children. So is it quid pro quo to delay the affidavit for me and I'll represent you for free? It's not exactly what he was trying to do. He's just trying to have his cake and eat it too. He was trying to satisfy all of his demands at the same time. And he's like, yeah, I can delay this. And she's like, I want it now, but later it would be better. And she's like, well, that's not what I want. So she went somewhere else. So, is the bomb that KG said was coming off? KJ publicly discussed the case and went after EDB on her live tonight. And conveniently missing from her channel, the live is gone. Yeah, I don't think I need to say this, but I'll say it anyway. I don't think anyone should be, it's the same thing Emily would say. I don't think anyone should be harassing any of these people. First of all, they're people, and they're involved in a stressful situation. Second of all, you don't really know what's going on. You guys can speculate all you want, but you don't really know what's going on. You shouldn't harass these people. And making death threats and doxing people is bad. You shouldn't do that. And so whoever's doing this and whoever's behind it should stop. It's bad. How long do we think court's response decision will be? Probably very soon. Within this week. What do I think is next this case? Probably the status conference is next. Probably a status conference. Let's have a hearing. Let's talk. Let's figure out where we are. Right? So probably status conference. Figure out where we are from the judge. Hopefully, at the end of that status conference, I can put in order to stop filing shit. And then I can roll in the motion to dismiss. I can roll in the jurisdiction issue. Which I still think is 65-35 for Toddy. I think if I were the judge, I would try to find a way to rule for Katie. Because of the way the implications for social media are very concerning if Toddy's right. It's very concerning. Are all the mods I have in my channel now an agent of mine? I don't even know what states they live in. Do I have agents of mine running around in different states doing my bidding? Never really signed up for that. So I think, if I were the attorney, or if I were the judge, I would be very strongly inclined to rule against jurisdiction. But I don't think this is what this judge is going to do. I think it's more likely that he rules that there is jurisdiction. But that's just my assessment of the situation. So I don't think the judge is going to do what I think I would do. That's my assessment. $5 from Q Squared. Making death threats and doxing people is bad. Probably be stopped, yes. I never thought this was something that needed to be said until the last 4 years. I know, right? Yeah. So, yeah. So, yeah. I'm looking at the case law, looking at it as best as I can. I think Toddy has some pretty powerful arguments. So I think it's 65-35. I kind of hope Katie is going to win because some of the implications if Toddy wins is very uncomfortable for a lot of the social media creators. So that's, I'm kind of hoping that I'll be proven wrong. But I think that I'm going to, I think it's 65-35 for Toddy. Yeah, Call to Order has it right. I think a finding in Toddy's favor potentially opens any content creator to jurisdiction everywhere. And that seems like a very bad idea. So that's what I think. Your moderators don't go do research for you, as far as I know. Well, I don't really know necessarily what they do. And then we have to worry about what the scope of their agency is. Because if they're my agents now suddenly, do I have to worry about what they're doing in my name? That maybe that's within someone will think that's within the scope of their agency, right? It's not necessarily even what I tell them to do. If they're my agents and they go do stuff, I might be responsible for that, even if I didn't tell them to do it. Or someone could argue it, right? Because they're my agents. And suddenly they're doing something. So even if I didn't tell them to do it and they're doing it, does that expose me to liability? Do I have to worry about a whole new level of liability from things I didn't even know necessarily were going on? Because if they're really my agents, I might be responsible with that respondent superior. So even if I didn't know it was happening, I might be legally responsible. That's the kind of things I'm worried about. Yeah. KJ will be insufferable. She wins. We'll hear about it forever. I don't know about that. I mean, I think there's a very decent, very good chance that if Katie wins, that Toddy will refile in Minnesota. And a lot of the legwork has already been done, so it won't be as expensive the second time. I mean, they already have their complaint written. So they just have to change a few things in the complaint. It'll take like an hour tops to change the complaint and refile it in Minnesota. They already have it written, so they don't have to spend the money again. And Katie already has her motion dismissed, which really should be improved, and so forth and so on. So yeah, I'm not sure how much it will, but yeah, we can refile this in Minnesota and we can have this fight all over again. Yeah. Could the extra circus going on in this case color judge's final verdict? Almost certainly not, because the judge isn't going to know or care. I guarantee you the judge is not looking at Twitter or YouTube, and there's a pretty decent chance the judge doesn't know what a Twitter or YouTube is. So the judge doesn't know about it and definitely doesn't care. And the judge has seen worse in their time. So I think this is just going to be yet another annoying thing in the judge's repertoire. This is the Western District of Washington, right? This is the same judge. This is the same judge that has the Google Parler suit. So maybe they just miss it just to clear up time on their docket or something. It could be. Katie's biggest problem is she needs to talk about her case. That would help a lot with time to talk about her case, yeah. 846 of you are currently watching. And I thank each and every one of you because it is helping this channel become a real possibility. Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I really appreciate it. Please, if you haven't done already, make sure to hit the like. It doesn't cost you anything. It helps with the engagement. It helps the channel grow. And it's very heartwarming. Thank you. Yeah. Can it be unsummarily dismissed? Can I be unsummarily dismissed? You're fine, internet commentator. Great job with Louis Rossman. I thought it worked out pretty decently. We had a nice civil conversation. We disagreed about some stuff, and we treated each other like civil human beings. I know, right? He said some things, and then I said some things. We disagreed, and we treated each other like individuals and just had a very calm conversation. Who thought it was possible anymore, right? I thought it was fine. If the case does get refiled, does it mean essentially a clean slate for the arguments? Yes. Thank God. Yes, it means a clean slate. So it means that Katie can take another crack at that motion to dismiss. Maybe get it right this time. Tifa said, glad you said something. I hadn't liked and totally spaced listening to you on Civil Law. Much love. Hope your nap is going well. Thank you. Yamano Game says, you're a conservative, correct? Yes, I am a conservative and a Republican. What's my take on the election? Well, I've taken a look at about half the lawsuits that were filed against Trump, or apologize, for Trump. Took a look at about half of them. And all the ones I saw, there was nothing there. It was all crap. It was all completely crap. And, I took a look even at the evidence that was filed in a lot of them. It was all shit. So I think that Biden won the election. There's certainly no evidence to the contrary, despite what QAnon keep screaming about. Was there some election fraud? Yes, because it would be insane to think there's no election fraud. There was 150 million people voted, something like that. To say there's zero would be insane. It's 150 million people in God knows how many precincts. Was there some? Yes. Was it consequential? Nope. Was it any more than normal in a normal election? Not really. Once you adjust for everything. There's more mail-in ballots because of course there is. Rikachu gives me $5 or $2, says, have to go to bed. Thank you for life. Thank you, Rikachu. Yeah. So I think Biden won. And I don't think it's particularly surprising why. COVID was a huge factor, and Trump has one of the worst approval ratings of any modern president. Trump is a particularly unlikable person. His character, his personality was always frustrating. I thought he was good on policy. I liked his policy, but his rhetoric was hard to defend. I think it's probably I think everything happened. I think it's legitimate. I think I don't know where people are getting this idea that the election was stolen. The evidence is just not there. Some courts actually did get to the merits. Not all of them dismissed for ripeness or standing or mootness. Some actually did get to the merits. There were a couple that got to the merits, and they were all shit. There's just nothing there. Nothing like what you would need to try to do the kinds of things people were doing. So, that's what I think about it. Do I think there's going to be more assaults on the Capitol buildings? No, because they're better prepared for that now. So I don't think there'll be anything more. Would I consider throwing out a questionable ballot tampering? I don't understand the question. If there's ballot tampering, it should be investigated. You're being CNN? I'm just calling it like I see it, man. You know that. That's how I do. I just call it like I see it. Do I like Pence? Yes, I do like Pence. I think he's done a fantastic job for the country. I think he's been very good and very solid, and he's been very. I like Pence quite a lot. He's done his job under a considerable amount of pressure, and he's done his job excellently. I like Pence quite a lot. An employee hits a person in the face and spies the employee manual. Who's responsible? That's the kind of thing that people will get into lawsuits for. I don't want to find out the answer. Do you think Sidney Powell needs a mental evaluation? I don't know, man. Sidney Powell and Lynn Wood both. And actually Giuliani, too. Giuliani might be the saddest of them all, because Giuliani was the fucking man. He was the goddamn goat back in the day. He was the fucking goat in the day. And to see this happen to Giuliani is really kind of depressing. Because he was the boss. He basically single-handedly took down the mafia in New York. I mean, come on. Yeah. $10 from Q Squared. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, sucks like a duck, swims like a duck, flies like a duck, has duck's DNA, and clears the Democrats steering the election. I'm not sure what that means exactly, but yeah, it's like, this is nothing there. Chantal666 says, you're quickly becoming my favorite content creator. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. I live down Metro DC. I used to live in Metro DC, and I'm glad I don't anymore. Let me tell you that right now. Goddamn. They essentially shut down everything leading up to the inauguration. That's what it looks like. Let me tell you how happy I don't live in Metro DC right now. Yeah. So it's nice to see an adult in the White House that can string words together coherently. Biden has his own problems, but he's better. Oh yeah, with Giuliani, you don't even have to think about America as a mayor, although he was badass at that too. When he was America's mayor, when he was America's mayor, he completely transformed Times Square. Times Square before Giuliani was a red light district. It was crap. He completely transformed it and cleaned it up. He completely changed the image of New York, as the mayor of New York. But what I was thinking of was before that, when he was the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. When he was the U.S. attorney, he was the fucking goat. He's unbelievable. And to see this happen to Giuliani is kind of depressing, man. It's like, what fate awaits us if this can happen to a guy like Giuliani, you know? 10 Canadian dollars from Living Sweetly says, unfortunately, there's no way to object to getting older. Happy birthday, you sexy beast. Thank you, Living Sweetly. I appreciate that. It was my birthday 6 days ago, and I appreciate the happy birthday message. That's very kind of you. Yeah, Chronicling Creed says, I keep saying the thing about Giuliani. It's sad. It is incredibly sad. I mean, when he was U.S. attorney, okay, when he was U.S. attorney, he single-handedly took down the entire fucking mafia. He took down like the 5 families. He ended it, like himself. And then when he was mayor of New York and 9/11 happened, oh my! Well, first of all, before 9/11, he transformed Times Square. He got rid of all the squeegee men. He completely got rid of the red light district of Times Square, this rundown, bean down shithole that it was. Transformed it completely. And I mean, he's the goddamn man. And I don't know what the fuck happened to Giuliani. Holy shit. That's depressing. I don't know what happened. It's really depressing, man. Cheers. Thank you, Q Squared, for the $5 super chat. Yeah. And now Giuliani is a joke. He's a punchline. I don't know what happened to the man. I don't. It's really sad. It's like, what will happen to me in the future? You know, if it can happen to a guy like Giuliani. So yeah, Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell both need to be disbarred. They both need to be disbarred. I don't know what happened to either one of them, but they've completely gone to crap. And Giuliani, I don't know if he should be disbarred. It just breaks my heart too much. It breaks my heart too much to even consider it. Yeah. So I'm going to end the stream. We've been here for a while. You know, so I think this filing, I think the judge will probably grant the status conference, if I had to guess. It's not a bad idea just to grant it, see where everyone is. You know, get everyone on the same page, figure out what's next. Make sure, because especially with this amount of filings as we had, because how many filings have we had on the motion to dismiss? How many filings have we had on the motion to dismiss? Does anyone know? It's been 10, 12? I mean, this is a lot. And and as I pointed out, we haven't even got into 2 in the main sequence. We had the motion to dismiss. That was 1. 2 is the answer. We haven't even gotten to 2. This has all been a side diversion for God knows how many documents, man. Jeez. So for no other reason, the judge needs to bring everyone down and calm everyone down, figure out what the issues are, deal with them, probably put them in order, stop filing stuff, and deal with the jurisdictional issue. And go analyze that for a while. That'd be what I'd do if I was the judge at this point, basically. If I hadn't done it already before at this point, I probably would have pulled the trigger earlier. But if I hadn't already, I would definitely pull the trigger now. Be like, let's pull everyone in, figure out what's going on, settle everyone's grievances, put them in order. You can't file anything more. I'm going to rule in the jurisdiction now. Go away. You know? So, yeah. It's too much, man. But if you have not done already, please like the stream. It helps the channel grow. If you're not already a subscriber, why not? Please hit the subscribe button. You can always change your mind later. And you'll get top quality legal education content, including our new and never-ending series, FBIT Hour, where we go over case by case of all the people who were involved in the Capitol riots. And we cover all their cases individually. And we're still on the 14th. And this will never, ever end. And so if you like that, you can subscribe to that. That'd be great. And did you know you can become a member of the channel? It's true. For 99 cents a month, you too can become a member of the channel. And if you do, you get your name in green. And you get a really cool little scale icon next to your name. Looks sweet. Looks nice. And, you get access to member-only content. And I would like you more. And you also get access to member-only streams, which we're going to do for at least Q&A for the last Tuesday of the month. So that would be next Tuesday. So a week from Tuesday, we'll do a little members-only thing and see how that goes. But for now, my friends, I've been Uncivil Law. I hope all's well. Cheers and goodbye.